All right, guys, welcome back to the Impossible Moments podcast. These are little mini series discussions we do with Impossible Performance, where we bring on thought leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are pushing the edge and driving forward the future of their areas, their passions, their pursuits. And today I am very excited to bring on one Miss Jennie Sikes, who is the soul alignment strategist. We're going to dive into everything Jennie does and her background and her work she does today. But if before you do any of that, go down and click on the link to check out her school community, which is the Soul Alignment Lounge. Did I say that correctly? Or no?
Close. Rise and
Align Lounge. I just practiced that. I messed it up. The Rise and Align Lounge. It's one of the top links in the show notes there. Go on and check that out and see if you like this conversation. See the work she's doing there because it's powerful stuff impacting a lot of people. So with that, we are going to dive in. But Jennie, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Matthew, for having me here. So excited. As I mentioned earlier, I have kind of kept track of you and your podcast and your group, and I'm very excited to be here. And I know that you've had some really, really wonderful folks on, and I'm connected to a couple of them as well, and they're just amazing folks. And just like you said, we're all out here making the collective a little bit better than what it was yesterday.
Absolutely. I love that perspective. And I was reading through your bio about everything you do, all the skills and areas you're trained in, and the capacity you have with which to help people. And I saw you actually way before that came from the corporate world. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I'm still there.
Okay. So how does that basically walk us through that story? How did you go from making this transition from working in the corporate world to finding this new passion in a different area and really driving forward in that to the level that you have, because you have several skills in which you're trained and can help people?
It's a very great question with a very simple answer. I've always been woo-woo, esoteric, metaphysical, a little bit different. Oh, there's aliens. Of course there's aliens. I've always been that way since a little girl. But with culture and society, you're kind of shape-shift to do what you got to do, get that good job, climb the ladder, get the stability, get the home, have the 2.5 kids, do your thing, right? And so I did that, and I believe I did it well. I've been in corporate America for a very long time, but as a corporate recruiter for 20 years, helping many folks out there finding jobs, fixing their resumes, giving them guidance on interview techniques, how to beat the algorithms of the job boards, but also filling positions for the various companies that I've been employed by. But in all of that, there's still that little woo-woo, the little magical, the little esoteric, I think there's more to this than what society has taught us. And so once I became an empty nester, I said, well, I've got time back. I'm going to deep dive into all the things that I know are bigger. And I did. I deep dove into energy healing and back into astrology and intuitive readings with a little bit of numerology, QHHT and soul empowering hypnosis, and then qualified as an end-of-life doula and got certified in that for hospice care. And then I saw a shaman, and she's like, well, what do you want to do with all of these modalities? And I was like, I don't know. And she goes, well, don't tell me that you want to help people. And I was like, well, that was kind of my answer. And she goes, Jennie, take a step back. You are a recruiter. That's about transformation. You are an end-of-life doula. That's about transformation and the final transition. You provide energy healing and career consulting and all these different modalities, but the thread is the same. It's about transformation and transition. I was like, okay, so can I help people now? She was hilarious. But that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is I know that outside of corporate America, where I do contribute to society and helping others out in that capacity, I'm able to also bridge that in other areas like empty nesting and support when it's inner child healing and holistic modalities that people are interested in nowadays, which is incredibly powerful and very enlightening. Did that help answer the question? It's a lot more than what meets the eye, but again, very simple with the answer is, I want to help. And I'm told, no, don't use that phrase. It's different. It's bigger than that. So.
No, I love that response. And that's interesting. So would you say, because I think there's a lot of people on school who are in a job and they're wanting to get out of that job and dive deeper into their passion. So would you say like the corporate world is an area that has basically like provided for you and your family, and now you're looking to fully transition to this new phase of life, or are these areas that you have interest and passion in both areas and you're looking to just find a balance between the two?
Yeah, so I actually don't even segment them into two different arenas anymore. I
Mm.
used to. I used to be very, let's say, trigger shy and letting anybody in corporate America know that I could read birth charts, or that I've got a tarot deck here to my right in my top drawer, or that I've got crystals stuck in my bra, right? I've got that selenite happening. I was very trigger shy in communicating any of that. But then as time progressed, people just helped me understand that I'm allowed to be as authentic and genuine as I am. And I don't have to fit into anybody's concept of who I should be. So I did start opening up a little bit more. And I've gotten to the stage of here where I was not going to tell anybody, all the way to here where my CEO and my VP are like, hey, can you go sage the office? It's Friday. There's been some yucky energy. Can you go sage the office? And I'm like, heck yes. So I don't see it as a separation anymore. I see it as I'm allowed to be my authentic self without pushing my narrative on anybody. But if folks come to me, then I can absolutely help them and empower them to learn a little bit more about their skills. So like even with careers, right? We can dive into your birth chart. Say you're not happy with the job that you're in. Say it's not a good match. We can actually look at your birth chart and certain placements and go, you would be good at ABC instead. And then kind of shape shift it to get you on that path.
That's really cool. I love that that was your answer. So one thing we've been talking a lot on our full production podcast and a lot of our messaging, we've really been diving into the concept of identity and how
Mm.
so much of your life can be downstream of how you choose to define yourself, what kind of identity you choose to build for yourself. And some of that is very personally chosen. Some of that ends up being placed upon us and then accepted. But I believe at any point we can work to make changes to that identity, how we identify ourselves. And I love how you talk about this transition from seeing yourself as two different worlds. Like there's the corporate Jennie, and then there's the free spirit soul alignment Jennie. And when the best things happen, when you combine those worlds and you figure out who you are, what your identity is, you really define that story about yourself and who
Mm.
you are. And then you bring that into every aspect of your life. And what we've found is when we can successfully do that, we become the most profoundly successful, the most profoundly happy, and the most profoundly fulfilled with our day-to-day lives, our pursuits, and who we are. Because at the end of the day, if that's who you are and you are pursuing that passion, then you can bring that into any area of life, and it's going to cause a really positive impact in those areas. Just like you said, saging the office of the corporate world, that's probably something you would have never imagined yourself doing at some point.
Never. Never.
But to show up not feeling like you're hiding this part of yourself, and that creates its own negative energy and anxiety, to
Right.
be able to show up as who you are, and again, not pushing it on anybody, but being open to those who are interested. That is so powerful. I think that's a big step that no matter where anybody listening is in life, if you're in a spot where you've got a job and you hate that job and you're trying to escape that job, maybe before you even work on getting out of the job, you figure out who you are. What do you want? What are your passions? What are your desires? What's an identity you would like to build for yourself? And can you bring that into the area you're working in now? It may not totally alleviate the challenges and the frustrations from whatever occupation you currently hold, but it will at least allow you the comfort and solace of showing up as you truly are. Do you think that's something that is important for people to pursue? And if they're looking to kind of make this, I wouldn't say identity shift, but this identity fulfillment in all aspects of their lives, what's some of the first steps people can take in doing that?
Well, being open-minded is going to be key in my personal opinion, because you know who you are and the different masks that you wear, because we all wear masks, right? And they're just different layers of a mask, right? The only people that really get to know the deepest part of us is us. Right? So having an open mind, being willing to be a little bit vulnerable, and possibly having a little bit of that woo-woo, that magical, that ability to be open with, let's again take a look at your birth chart. Let's take a look at your life path. Let's take a look at your Enneagram, or let's go Myers-Briggs, which is Carl Jung, right? Let's go look at that. And that in itself can change over time as well. But if we peel back the layers of the facade, the original mask, the mask that we're putting on to protect us from the outside world, let's peel that back a little bit and get to know each other, and then develop that rapport, and then take the steps to identify your skills, your core, what brings you joy, what is something you absolutely don't want to do in a job or a career. And I do still always come back to that birth chart, because so many things can come back to that chart, and it's been proven with me and some of my clients over and over and over again, because they're like, yes, I never understood this about me. This is really great. But the vulnerability and the open mind are the two biggest things. And we can shape shift our day to day. We can shape shift our path. We can shape shift everything, but we have to have the tools to be able to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. For anybody listening who's maybe new to this area or not super familiar with this area, what is, just very general overview, what is a birth chart, and how can that form a foundation for helping people figure out their alignment?
Yes. So with birth charts, it's astrology. It's astrology. And there are many people that are anti-birth charts, anti-astrology, anti-numerology, all the woo-woo. And I say woo-woo because it's a light phrase. A lot of people can connect with a woo-woo word. And there are people that are like, you should never use that word. I'm like, stop, it's okay. Because most of my clients are the ones that are skeptical, they're left-brained, they're analytical, they're logical, they're grounded, but they're willing to open up just a smidge to see what else they don't know, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so it's astrology, and we tap into the foundation, your blueprint, if you will, of your makeup coming into this earth on the day and the time and the place that you came into this planet. And I'm not fortune telling, I'm not forecasting, I'm not reading your palms, although I think that's fascinating. I'm not doing any of that. I'm looking at the blueprints of who you are in this lifetime, and then giving you some of the, and I do ask, hey, does this resonate, right? But some of the items of what I see in this charts from where the planets were when you came into this beautiful earth.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. And I love that you say a lot of the people you work with are more left brain, more analytical. Like you're helping give people this introduction into this space and a whole new way of thinking, a whole new way of aligning with the work they're doing and exploring a whole new avenue. It's really funny. I just put up a post last night in one of my communities, and I was talking about force versus technique, more like the brute force idea versus the like controlled formulated technique. And those two approaches can work in any aspect. I was putting it under the lens of powerlifting because I'm a competitive powerlifter.
Good.
And I was talking about how I, used to be very brute force, very emotional driven, very just like go to a different level and push it out and make it happen. And slowly over time, I found that there was only so far I could take that before I started really having to bring the other world of technique and precision into everything I did. And really, I found the best progress and the best results when I learned to marry and kind of balance the two. So do you think that a lot of this type of approach, the woo-woo side, as you call it, do you think a lot of this can help a lot of people who are very analytical, very left brain, very, by the book, very factual, very science-based? Do you think there's a way for people like that to really bring in a lot of this more woo-woo approach and help find balance? And if so, what's some of the best low-hanging fruit for people in that situation?
Great question. So first off, we all as humans have left brain and right brain capability, right? So for those that don't know, the left brain is the logical, the grounded, the analyzing the data, right? Which we all need to have those folks in our world and that part of our brain. And then the right brain is the more open, the more creative, the more flow with it, the more, "Oh, I don't need the data." Here's an easy phrase. I don't need to see it to believe it. That's what the right side says. The left brain says, no, I need to see it to believe it. And I need to know who, what, when, where, why, right? But we can merge those if we're open-minded. So what I have found, and this is just God, creator, universe, insert label here. Everybody has a name for who they call on outside of this physical meat suit, right? I think that there's a common denominator in that. So insert label here, insert title here. They're driving people my way that are left brain. And it's almost as if it's like, Jennie, we want to throw you a curveball. We want to give you a challenge. We want you to talk to this mathematician and see if you can kind of break apart some of this. And this literally has happened. So I keep getting these left brainers, which I have now found to be a beautiful challenge. And I kind of jump to the excitement of, okay, all right. Thank you, universe. Now I've got another challenge in front of me. And I am meeting with those math teachers, the ones that are, who, what, when, where, why. Give me that data. I don't believe this data. I need to see it. I need to see it to believe it. And it's quite, it's empowering for them because they get the data they're looking for. And then they go, whoa, wait a minute. It's not just, back to your point, it's not just about the emotion, the raw emotion to push through in bodybuilding. It's the technique, right? And you're bridging those two things. It's quite beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful process. And it's one that, like I said, my eyes were really open to through that sport. And then now we bring that same kind of approach to our business. What I found is so much power comes from within us, simply from when it starts with the pure belief in whatever it is you're pursuing. We talk about the 4 domains of performance as we've described them. That's mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Well, there's a lot that can be wrapped up into each of those domains, but there's something about that spiritual domain. And again, like you said, everybody's got a different approach. Everybody's got a different label, but it's still that same muscle within us, just funneled through different avenues. And what I found is that the more, I suppose, conviction you can build around that belief in it, the more effect it can often lend sometimes. And it really, to me, because I've always been more of a left brain analytical kind of guy, it really showed me that whether it's true or not true is really the wrong question. It's about, does it work? And in that way, if it works, it has truth, So I would tell and especially this last prep I did in 2025, I was going for a world record. And it was one of those preps up into it where it was like everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. And yet I knew that all I had to keep doing was keep showing up every single day, every single training session, bring forth my highest potential. And in so many ways, it was kind of the perfect stage to be able to display a lot of our messaging, how you can bring out a different version of yourself, an impossible version of yourself, somebody who can overcome those challenges. And I remember repeatedly, I kept telling my coach, because there were times where he was, and he a phenomenal coach, could not speak highly enough about him. There were times where even he was like, are you sure this is the goal we want to chase? Should we look at something else? And I remember telling him, I will change my own physiology under that bar to a point that I can squat it, which is not something that a lot of us, especially in the Western world, would be open to the idea of. But what I found is I just had to make myself believe that, because the alternative was I could get under that bar and tell myself, I'm not ready for this. I'm not built for this right now. This isn't going to happen. And I could be in the exact same physical state, but if I have, those are two very contrasting beliefs. One is going to lead to a much, much higher likelihood of ultimate success versus the other. So what I found is, whether it's true or not, I don't care. I would rather position myself and that far more likely outcome of success. So I'm going to push everything I have in that spiritual domain into that belief. And then lo and behold, again, even though everything was going wrong at first on meet day, I actually failed that weight I was going for the first attempt. And then I turned around 5 minutes later and got it. And I believe so much of it was due to that kind of blend of mental, emotional, and spiritual belief I had built up within myself. So when you work with energy and you talk about alignment and you really dive into this side of the human condition, what are some of the best ways that we can really help tap into some of that power and bring that forth within ourselves, regardless of what we're pursuing in life?
Beautiful question. And thank you for your story. I love that. That's very inspiring and motivating. And you mentioned the right words, mind, body, emotion, and the spiritual component. We're more than just, again, the physical meat suit. There's so much more. But back to your point with the energy, let's take it a step further with the mind, the body, the emotion, and the spirit. Say you go out and you have a really cruddy day. It's just the day is not working for you. And you've come across many, many, many different people, or maybe one person that just had really just yucky energy. Let's just say yucky energy, right? And you're feeling down and just, but you can't really get to the root of why. Well, what is the root why you're not feeling? Did you not eat enough? Did you not hydrate enough? Did you work out too hard? No, everything was fine. Okay, did you have a really long task list? No, that was fine too. So what is it? If you get down to it, we're all energy. You're coming across other human beings that have just lower vibrations. They're having a cruddy day for whatever reason, right? But then now you're a magnet. You've obtained some of that same energy. You've inherited some of that same energy. And now you're walking around having the heavy shoulders and the burden, and see how I'm kind of like doing this thing. But you still can't figure out what is the root issue. So one thing I do teach to bridge the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spiritual into one solid tool every single day is energy hygiene. So when I wake up and when I go to sleep, I say a very clean, clear, quick, you can say prayer, you can say mantra, you can say sentence. Again, put a label on it. Doesn't matter. It's just saying any energy that is not mine, I return to sender. And I say it 3 times. So what happens is, either that just hit my subconscious mind. I'm making myself aware in my subconscious that any energy that's not mine is going back to sender. I'm not taking it home. Or B, I'm energetically releasing it and returning it back to center, right? Spiritually, I'm returning it back to sender. And then emotionally in my heart space, I'm returning it back to sender. And I'm not sending it back like, I'm going to send you back your energy. It's not like that. It's like, no, I care enough about you as a soul in a human body that while I hear you and I see you and I feel you, I am also going to return your energy back to you because it's not mine to hold. And a lot of empaths in this world have a really, really difficult time doing that. But do you see how that makes sense, where it bridges the subconscious mind and the physical body, but also the emotions and then the spiritual aspect of it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love that term, energy hygiene. That's
Yeah.
so cool because it makes me think of like brushing
Taking
your
a
teeth,
shower, brushing your teeth.
taking a shower, yeah.
Right?
And it's that same thing. You're just scrubbing off the dirt of the day, and
Yes.
it's the same thing,
Yes.
just for more of your emotional and spiritual, and to a point, mental state. And
Absolutely.
really, all 4 domains linked together, because if one area is really heavily weighed down because of whatever reason, it's going to bleed over and affect the other 4 areas.
100%.
But conversely, if we put ourselves in a really positive state in one area, it's going to bleed over and affect the other 4 areas as well. And I think that's a great lever to pull, because there's just times where we may be really sick. We may be battling cancer, like a lot in our group have, whatever is things that are not directly within our control and influence. But if we can pool and leverage these other domains that we can have more control over at certain times, then it will bleed over and help those areas. So I really like that approach and that energy hygiene. I'm going to remember that. And I think that's also something that's very easy, very accessible, something any of us could do totally free of charge at any point throughout the day to help. Do you think?
Absolutely. And the same thing applies with sobriety, right? There's
Yeah.
another part to that where you're returning energy back to sender, but you're also releasing anything that's not serving my highest and greatest good. So those two sentences that I just gave you, I say them in the same prayer, same mantra, same sentence, twice a day at minimum. But that has also helped me personally when I release anything that's not serving my highest and greatest good. When I'm looking at my meal and I see a whole bunch of Fritos, Cheetos, Doritos, cheese, nachos, right? I'm kind of like, nah, that's not really nutrient dense and I'm not feeling it. Again, subconscious, mental, or emotional. Why am I eating those nachos? Or spiritual. It's just like, that's not going to serve my mind, body, soul.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like brushing your teeth twice a day.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That is a really powerful trick. And any of you guys listening right now, just try that out. You don't just do it in a safe space in bed, in your car, wherever you are. Nobody has to know about it, but
Mhm.
just try it out. And even if you don't believe it, just speak the words, because there's powerful there's a powerful connection between our subconscious and the words we speak, and particularly in the words we tell ourselves and let run through our mind all day long about us, about the situations we're in, about our life as a whole. And when we can start to, even if we can't just rewire that immediately, if we can just pause and reset, like you said,
Mhm.
that is a really, really powerful approach. So for people who could, because I think when people first start getting into this area, or maybe they're not in this area at all, there's a lot of awkwardness that I think
Oh,
people
yeah.
feel. And there's this
Right.
like really awkward, almost guilty feeling you have, because you're like, you just feel guilty for wanting to place any amount of belief or faith in this type of alignment. How do you help people get over that? Because it's weird that we feel it, but I think it's
Mhm.
something anybody who's ever touched this space has felt, at least in one way or
Oh,
another.
yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'll throw it out there. I mean, I'm born and raised a Catholic,
Mhm.
and I have Catholic guilt. I mean, it's again, there's a religious aspect to it, and that's why I've broken out of the religious component, but I still have so much respect for it, so much respect for it, and then more of a spiritual aspect. But there's a guilt mechanism that we are raised with. And especially with the recent generations of Gen Xers, and we're kind of breaking out of any type of guilt mechanism, but we still fall back to that inner child. With the folks that come into my world, they seem to be of the same mentality. And so we do start with the energy hygiene. And then we also talk about the itty bitty Shiati committee, to keep it PC, right? That little thing in your head that says, well, you can't do that. And you're no good at that. We reframe things. We say, hey, I hear you, but we turn it off. And then we start practicing gratitude every single day. So we start with holistic techniques every single day, practicing them. That again could be mind, body, soul, spiritual. Think of the subconscious, left brain logical. You're telling this itty bitty committee in your mind, okay, I hear you, but that's not the truth. I'm going to move on from now, right? You're connecting with the ones that might be a little less prone to jumping in off the deep end with astrology and numerology and intuitive readings and soul empowering hypnosis, but instead meeting them at a soul level, saying, hey, I see you, and I see areas that you could really empower yourself with if you have some basic tools to start.
Yeah. I love that. And I've thought of it kind of in a similar way when I first started exploring some of these different areas in these thought schools. I would think of it as like when I got in the gym first time. I was
Mm.
really awkward. I was really nervous. I didn't know what to do. And I felt really uncomfortable. I didn't know how to move my body. I didn't know how to stand. I didn't know how to do anything. And fast forward from there, 8 years later, I get a world record on the platform. And so it just shows that I felt uncomfortable in the gym when I first started, and that is
Mhm.
totally normal, totally natural. Anytime we are pursuing something that can bring out a greater potential within us, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. It's going to feel a little awkward, and it should feel that way, or else we're likely not, we're not pushing ourselves out of what's really comfortable to us.
Mhm.
And so I would always kind of frame it in that way in my mind of like, it should feel this way. It's not going to feel good, but this is part of the process. It should feel this way. And there's a certain amount of just experience I have to build to fully enter in and become experienced, become more nuanced in this pursuit, and to develop higher skill with it. So that was one thing that always kind of helped me just be able to be more accepting of that feeling at first anyway.
Yeah, and aren't
So
we always growing and learning
yeah, yeah.
anyway? I mean, isn't it boring if we just, like, stop?
Yeah. Well, and that's where,
Right.
like, we talk about stories, like you could just tell yourself a different story of, oh, this, instead of saying like, oh, this is really awkward and uncomfortable, I need to hide this, learn to change that to whenever you feel that feeling, make it exciting. Like, oh,
Yes.
this is awkward, this is uncomfortable, but it's exciting because I'm learning a new skill and I'm growing in a different capacity that's going to push me further in that pursuit to wherever.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna flip the script here for a second. So I've been woo-woo, metaphysical, magical, all of this stuff my entire life, right? But now I'm getting into a space of being uncomfortable, not with this, but because of I've decided to take charge of my body. I'm doing what you're doing. You mentioned the gym, going into the gym, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And how do I started kickboxing
Oh,
almost a year ago.
yeah.
And it's not with humans because I don't want to hurt anybody. And I certainly don't want to get hurt either. Like, no Ronda Rousey. I don't want any of that happening, right? She's awesome, but I don't want to do that. But it's towards a bag. And so I get there and I've got my gloves on and my hands are wrapped, my hair is up, I've got the perfect little yoga pants, and I'm ready to rock and roll. And the class starts and it's amazing music happening. And I'm a sensory person. So I love music. Give me music and I'll make it happen. But I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And so I've got the instructor amongst 20 other people coming back to me, showing me how to do a jab or a cross or a hook or a pendulum kick. And I'm like, my brain's not connecting it. My brain could not, but I had to keep going back. I had to show up. I had to practice, just like the energy hygiene. I had to practice every other day, being there, being as awkward as it is. And now I go in and I'm like, all right, let's get it done. I'm still not good, but I know what a jab and cross is, and I know how to like do the right moves at the right time. It's practicing and getting out of your comfort zone. And now I'm physically doing it with my body, which is crazy. But it's evolving. That's my whole point, is that I'm using my left brain, my data brain, my whoop band brain, and using that to learn and grow and develop as a soul, again, in this meat suit.
I love that. And I'm glad you brought that story up because it speaks perfectly to, you've been focused on these mental, emotional, spiritual domains, and now you're getting a really intense focus on the physical domain as well. And the
Yeah.
two, you've created a space where those worlds are all going to feed into each other. And it's really going to exponentiate that growth you as a whole human. So I love to hear that. And for people who are listening right now and starting to get really interested in you and the work you're doing, I want to transition a little bit to your school community, because I'd love for people to know, if they click that link down in the description and join your school community, the Rise and Align, what can they expect? What does a day in the life look like inside of your school community?
Thank you for that question. So I built this community for folks that attended my workshops and direct one-on-one clients, where these folks were just like, hey, I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to learn. I'd love to have a community. And I was like, maybe text. They're like, no. Maybe WhatsApp. They're like, no. Maybe Facebook groups. They were like, no. I was like, well, I got to figure something out, right? So I did some deep diving and found school, and then I created the Rise and Align community. But what's happened, and it's so beautiful, and I'm so excited about this, is not only do a handful of my clients get to connect with themselves, right, after meeting each other, but they're now meeting people all across the globe, and they're connecting. And so one way I keep the conversations going is I post daily, once or twice a day. I'll pull cards once a week. We'll use oracle cards. We'll talk about power animals. We'll learn more about different mythologies. Norse, Odin keeps coming up for some reason. It's like, okay, let's learn about Odin today. And if it works with you, if it jives with you, then cool. If it doesn't resonate, you move on to the next thing. We're sharing books that have helped us, meditations that have helped us, different tools, because all of these are tools. That's what it is. They're all tools to further enhance our soul's development. So in that community, amazing human beings all throughout the globe. I'm so honored. I've got people from Ireland and Australia and the UK, and I'm just like, this is fantastic because they're here socializing and engaging with people in my backyard in DC. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And we're all growing together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that testament, and it really speaks to the power of what school has created.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like you said before, you had this whole network of people under you who were probably for the most part pretty disconnected from each
Yes.
other. And now you have a space where you can bring that whole community, yet everybody is interconnected. And the coolest part about it, and I'd be interested to see if you've had this experience, when we started getting deeper into our school community, because of that interconnected network and the conversations that happened without me even being present, I started learning things about my own messaging from the people in my own community, which that is when I started realizing that, I was like, okay, this is the space, because now I get to learn about my own messaging, and it's really become less a part of just me and more a part of that global culture we're looking to build. And that was a really, really cool transition for us. Have you had similar experiences within your community?
Absolutely. I actually have people teaching me all kinds of different tools that I had no idea about. I'm like, yes, bring it on, because I still have such a thirst for knowledge. And that's one thing when you come to our group, that's what you get. If you have that thirst for knowledge, I mean, like I said, books and mala beads and meditations and chakras and intuitive readings, but I'm learning from other folks along the journey too. And that makes me an equal. I'm an equal participant in all of this. And again, I'm just so honored to have that in a community. It really does move me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you have do you guys do regular group calls? Do you have courses? Do you have anything like that built in your community?
Absolutely. So that was the other thing with school, that I decided that I had wanted to throw some courses on there. So I have lots of complimentary courses in the classroom. So energy hygiene, you want to go to that tab, you'll get 5 different videos on how to do the same darn thing, and you will get it ingrained in the subconscious very easily. But we have all kinds of courses, all kinds of workshops. I do host a connect once a month where we get on. This last one was great. I had spirit animals. We were pulling cards for spirit animals. Somebody got a wasp. It was great. Actually, that was from earlier. I was reading today. We have a lot of fun. We just connect once a month, and then I do hold workshops where we can do guided meditations. We can connect to your higher self, your loved ones, your ancestors, your spirit animals, whatever we want to connect with in that time. And it's all very much energetically protected because, again, I go back to my Catholic roots. I don't do anything without Archangel Michael. So some people agree, some people don't agree, but when you're in my community, they seem to appreciate that.
I love that. I love that perspective. And as you were saying that, I realized, we were talking earlier about some of that awkwardness that you can have when diving into a new area like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I think one of the biggest antidotes to that, when I think back to when I first got in the gym, what helped me become more comfortable in the gym was connecting with somebody who was experienced, and then they could show me what to do. And then I didn't have to be this awkward, confused kid anymore. They could help guide me. And as long as I was like with them, I felt safe and I felt comfortable. And I think that's exactly what your community is providing in this area. Is it's a safe, comfortable space to be able to explore this new area of growth that people have. And that's a
Absolutely.
really powerful thing to offer people.
I'll leave you with the one thing my instructor, because going to the gym and finding that one person that can help you, right? The instructor of kickboxing. I was terrified second day in because I knew the first day I was just not it was not working out well, not working out well. And she's like, Jennie, I was like, I'm nervous. She's like, no, 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 don't be nervous. You have to reframe the word from being nervous to being excited. And she was 100% correct. And it goes back to the story when you were pushing the weight, right? You could have gone into that with oh, you're not going to do this, you're going to fail. Or you get excited, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that's the shape shifting. And that's what this group is don't be nervous. Come in, be a lurker if you want, participate where you want, but get excited about learning something new that you didn't even realize you had the tools within your own makeup to be successful.
Man, I love that. I really love that message. And that's a great way to wrap things up for today. It's this concept of having like basically an emotional driver or an energetic driver where, you know, I get under that squat bar, I'm going to feel fear. Like there's going to be fear there. And in but I can have different drivers attached to that. I can have a driver of excitement attached to this fear of look at this opportunity, or I can have a driver of negativity attached to it of I can't do this. You know, so we sometimes get to put ourselves in positions where there's going to be a certain type of emotion, but it's really how we define that emotion. Like you said, this isn't nerves, this is excitement, you know.
That's right.
And it's really that driver, that frame, however you want to describe it, that ultimately allows us to perform or not perform under that scenario, that situation. So I do want to close with one more piece, and this is where I love to close with everybody. I don't want to, you know, not to give one last piece of advice to everybody. I always like to close in asking this one question. In if you could go back to the Jennie you were back when either you first started really diving deeply into this world, or maybe even better, the Jennie you were when you really started marrying those two worlds of the corporate Jennie and the soul alignment Jennie, what is one piece of advice you would give that person?
Oh, well, I wouldn't change anything, but that's not your question, right? So I wouldn't change anything. I think that I would have told her, the younger Jennie, to truly find the gratitude daily, because that has shape shifted how I look through my lenses every day. When you add up everything you're grateful for, from the slice of pizza to being able to sleep in for 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be big, right? Finding that brings joy, and finding joy adds the rose-colored glasses. And the rose-colored glasses equals love in your heart for yourself and for others. And if I had known that a little bit earlier on, I probably would not have been the rude teenager I was. I have not always been sunshine and rainbows, my friend. I have not always been that.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And what's even cooler is that you can go back and give that message to that Jennie every single day, and it will come forth and fuel into even who you are today. So I love that. Thank you for today's discussion. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. There's a lot of great stuff to get out of this. Click that top link in the description. Check out Jennie's community. There's a lot to grow and explore there. And if you're somebody who's always been fascinated by the idea of energetics or pursuing some of the more woo-woo parts of life, go down, dive into that community. It's a safe space where you can learn and grow and feel comfortable and have people actively teach you in this space to where you can find an approach that works for you. So check out Jennie's community. If you guys love this discussion, want to hear more discussions like this, the second link in those show notes will be for the Orion Collective. It is a new free school community. It is free. Every aspect of it always will be free. It's a space designed for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, people who are building the future of their space. And what we love to do in there is we love to tackle some of the hardest, nuanced questions, dichotomies of our crafts. And I've loved this space because it's, again, a safe space to get into some of that really tough, nuanced discussion without any sort of agenda or anger or argument. It's just a space where we can bring some of the greatest minds together to explore those topics. So check out that community as well. All of these conversations are posted there, and you'll be able to scroll back and find any of them that you can possibly learn from. So thank you guys for listening today. Thank you for being a part of what we do. Don't forget to brush your energetic teeth twice a day, every day. And as always, be impossible.